Hi students, welcome to Module 5. Module 5 deals with several different issues. As in particular, Module 5 Part A will deal with that horrible institution that has plagued the United States and has ramifications even today of slavery. You are responsible for the entirety of Chapter 10 in the smaller book, Thinking Through the Past. You'll have a reading quiz due April 22nd on Chapter 10. Chapter 10 deals with, it has a secondary source and many primary sources that will help you understand the perspective of the slave, not necessarily the slave owners, but the slave. And I think it's appropriately titled History from the Bottom Up, that we don't want to just focus on the people that are on the top, but the people on the lower levels of society. And of course, slavery and slaves would fit that criteria. You do have a primary source analysis on a source from chapter 10 in the book. It's a letter, a slave letter to his former master. It's one of the better primary sources, and I know I say that every week, but this letter is actually from a slave written to his former master after that slave has run away. You'll find it very interesting. The former slave is very intelligent and tongue-in-cheek, kind of makes fun of his former master and doing it in a backhanded sort of way. And you'll see what I'm talking about when you read that and complete your primary source analysis. Part B of the module focuses on a women's role in society. I think we tend to forget about women's parts and roles in history, primarily because most historians, especially back in the day, were men. So I do dedicate part of my class just to women's roles and what they were doing during this time period. Now, I do title the video lecture in Part B, New Roles for White Women. And I do that primarily because if you were a black woman, especially in the South during this time period before the Civil War, for all practical purposes, you were a slave and you really weren't fighting for a new role, as opposed to the women that I talk about, and it's actually titled New Roles for White Women, and in particular middle class to upper class women. While they did have it better than slaves, there are issues regarding their rights, right? Women's rights, the inability to vote, the inability to enter contracts, enter into business dealings. They're pretty much legal property in the sense of their fathers or their husbands. And we'll have a video lecture on that. Part B, responsible for the reading, is actually chapter 11 of the same small book, which talks about women's roles changing. In addition, you'll have a video lecture on the American factory. We start to see the rise of factories throughout the country. Not necessarily one factory, but groups of factories or machines coming together to create a factory, and the advent of the corporation. So we'll start to see America morph a little bit into what we kind of recognize as today's America, which we all know we still have many factories and corporations and the businesses that deal with this. Now, the discussion for Module 5 will focus, though, on the first part, which is slavery, that peculiar institution which the historians have, one historian has called it, which, of course, it's kind of, it takes some of the sting away from slavery. He calls it a peculiar institution, which the South would, of course, call it. We know it as that horrid institution of slavery. So make sure you participate in the discussion, have your initial post in there, and then reply to a fellow student, just like we've done in the past couple of modules. Now, I do want to focus on today. I am opening up Module 8, which is the last module of the course. And the reason I'm opening up, because that is going to be your final project. There won't be like a regular course with readings and regular discussions or primary or secondary source analysis or critiques. The final project is a public history project. And I have directions in Module 8, which are open up now, so you can go and look at the directions. And I also have a list of approved monuments and historic sites. And these are the list where you can pick of where you would like to go. Primarily what it is you're going to go to one of these monuments here in or around San Antonio, or one of these museums or historical sites, and you're going to create a video, a 5 to 10 minute video regarding that site, regarding what is this site or this monument honoring, the historical context, what does it stand, what's the message of this site or this museum. Do you think, as a historian, is it an accurate portrayal of history? So there is research involved before you actually go to this monument, whichever one you pick, or this historical site. So I open it up early, so you have several weeks to do your research, to get out to the site or the monument or whichever one you pick, and make a video. It'll open up the Friday before it's due. And here's where I want to stress, it'll be due the Monday of final exams week, which is Monday, May 13th. So it's not like a regular discussion that we've had through the class. This will actually be due on Monday, May 13th by 11:59 p.m. Okay, you have several weeks to do that. You will reply to a fellow students. I expect you to read their introduction in the discussion and then look at their video. And then you'll reply to it with your input, just like you've done with other discussion questions. And your reply is due by Wednesday, May 15th of that week by 11:59. So in Module 8, under Canvas, it's opened up so you can look at the directions. Start working on this early. Start researching whichever one you pick out of the list of approved sites and historical monuments, so that when you go out there, you can create your video. You need to answer the questions that are in the instructions in your video. You don't write them out. I want this part of your video. You can be as creative as you'd like, or you can be as normal. You can kind of just take yourself or take a friend and have them do a video of you walking through the site or around the site answering the questions. So it'll make a lot more sense once you look at the directions. They're written out. The video is about 5 to 10 minutes, and then your introduction, which is your actual word verbiage in the introduction, is about let's say 50 to 100 words introducing your video. All right, I think that's about it. Once again, you have several weeks to work on this. I open it up early so you can start work now, not the weekend before it's due that Monday. Now, you can't actually upload your project until the Friday before it's due, which would be Friday, May 10th. But I expect you to work on the video. Easiest thing I found is, and I can do it, and I'm old, is create a YouTube channel and maybe put your video on there with the link. And then you can just link that URL into the discussion post with your introduction, and easy peasy, you should be fine. All right. Have a great weekend. This Sunday I know is Easter, so if you're celebrating Easter, have a great Easter weekend. Be safe out there, and I will talk to you guys later. Keep up with the readings.